Superman has had more crossovers than Logan Paul has had failed companies. If there's a crossover fight you don't particularly care for, skip it to go to the next chapter. Superman has crossed into multiple universes and fought several iconic characters outside of the DC universe. His first major crossover is with Spider-Man in 1976. Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man, where yes, the two did fight. You'd think it would be as one-sided as Ellen DeGeneres at a staff appreciation party, but you would be wrong, because Spider-Man was temporarily enhanced by red sun radiation and managed to stagger him, but once Superman recovered, the fight ended with a decisive winner, Superman. They realized they were being manipulated and teamed up. In 1978, Superman fought Muhammad Ali in a boxing match. Now, obviously you would think, what could Muhammad Ali do to Superman outside of spit on him, right? Well, in this match, Superman voluntarily depowered himself and it was a fair boxing match. Ali, however, overwhelmed him round for round and won on points and knockout. Superman took so many headshots, he briefly operated on Hawk 2 IQ levels, a loss for Superman. Also in 1981, Superman squared off against Dr. Doom. But in this story, Dr. Doom pulled the ultimate villain card, diplomatic immunity as head of state. Thanks, United Nations. For this crossover fight, we'll rank it as a stalemate. In 1981, Superman once again fought the Hulk. Hulk attacked first, Superman withstood his hits, kept his distance, and ended the fight without damage. Superman won. In DC Comics number 47, Superman fought He-Man while under Skeletor's mind control. He-Man was forced to strike him with the power sword, which cut him. Once the mind control broke, they stopped fighting. No winner. Apparently, fans really like seeing Superman beating up xenomorphs because it happens more often than you would think, and their first crossover happened in 1995. In Superman/Aliens, Superman was weakened by the lack of sunlight. He fought these aliens on an alien colony, including a queen. He was injured but survived. He destroyed the nest and escaped. Another win for Superman. In DC vs. Marvel 96, Superman fought Hulk again in a fan-voted battle. Superman landed clean hits and knocked Hulk out. Hulk fans can rest assured knowing it was Smart Hulk that fought Superman, not Savage Hulk. This next one will shock you more than Stephen Colbert telling you a funny joke. Later in DC/Marvel All Access 1996, Superman fought Venom. Venom had the upper hand early on. He stunned Superman and nearly overpowered him. It wasn't until help arrived that Superman was able to stop Venom. Since he was losing decisively before help arrived, I put this in the losing column. In 1997, Superman briefly fought Silver Surfer, but there was no winner and they worked together for most of the story because nothing beats the power of friendship. In The Incredible Hulk vs. Superman 1999, the two enemies fought again. This time the fight was longer and much more even. It ended in a standoff without a winner. Stalemate. 1999 was a busy crossover year for Superman where he actually fought Galactus. This happened in a Fantastic Four crossover and the fight did not last long. Galactus turned him into a herald and took over his mind and body. An embarrassing defeat for Superman. In Superman vs. the Terminator Death to the Future 1999, Superman and his allies fought waves of Terminators across time. He destroyed Skynet and shut down their facilities. Superman won. In the year 2000, Superman fought Predator while he was sick from a virus. A predator hunted him and Superman fought back despite being weak. Eventually, he defeated the Predator and triggered its self-destruct system and died. Superman won. In 2001, Superman had one of its most bizarre crossovers ever and fought Tarzan. Yes, Tarzan. This is a parallel universe where Superman landed in Africa instead of Kansas. These two fought, and well, the winner is quite obvious. Tarzan is lucky to have a working trachea after that confrontation. In 2002, aliens not only fought against Superman again, but the new gods. If you have to ask who won, then Talk Tua might be the podcast for you. In 2003, the Justice League fought the Avengers, and Superman specifically fought Thor. It was a brutal back and forth. Thor landed shots with Mjolnir, Superman powered through and knocked Thor out. He admitted Thor was one of his hardest fights because unlike Jake Paul, Superman fights opponents at their prime. Superman wins again. In this story, he also had short confrontations with other members of the Avengers, such as Captain Marvel, who he distinctly overpowered. Superman's limits are tested in that very story when immediately after beating Thor, he is jumped by the Avengers and completely walloped. He faces against Iron Man, Hercules, Vision, She-Hulk, and in this battle, he loses. In Superman and Batman vs. Aliens and Predators, Superman survived facehuggers and battled a group of predators and fought through multiple aliens. With Batman's help, he neutralized them and brokered peace with the surviving predators, because Batman, in this case, Superman, won. In DC Universe vs. Masters of the Universe, Superman was mind-controlled again. He-Man stabbed him through the chest with the power sword. It killed him, but later it was revealed this was a magical clone. He-Man still killed a being acting with Superman's full power. Let's consider this a loss for Superman. In Injustice vs. Masters of the Universe, He-Man was once again in a battle against Superman. He was enhanced by Shazam's magic, and he fought the tyrant version of Superman. He-Man won, slashing Superman through his chest and killing him permanently. A loss for Superman. In one of Superman's most controversial stories, he fought Godzilla. This happened in Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong. The fight did not last long, and Godzilla overwhelmed him with his atomic blast. And when I say Godzilla beat him, I mean outright beat him, like Amber Heard at a Johnny Depp trial. The writer of this series later stated in a behind-the-scenes interview he believed MonsterVerse Godzilla to be as strong as Prime Superman, basically equals. The reason why Godzilla had such an overwhelming victory against Superman is because his atomic blast has a similar signature to kryptonite. In this story, Kong also traded blows with Supergirl, indicating he's also at similar levels. These are all the official crossover fights where Superman faced characters from outside the DC universe. In my opinion, the crossover battle that stands out to me the most is his fight against Venom. I am a huge fan of the character, but to see him have the upper hand against Superman is outright shocking. One piece of context to keep in mind is, this is during the era that Venom was at his peak and was fighting enemies such as Juggernaut and the Hulk. Side note, he lost those fights, but his stock was rising. There is no doubt there will be more comic and video game crossovers in the future. Deadpool and Batman have a crossover coming up, and James Gunn has expressed interest in a live-action Marvel vs. DC movie. Would you like to see a James Gunn Superman crossover with the Monsterverse and fight Godzilla? Do you want to see a Marvel vs. DC live-action crossover happen? Which crossover fight stood out the most to you? Support the channel by liking this video. You have no idea how much that helps. Also, support the official releases. Most of these crossovers are available in trade paperback, and you can read them this week. Trust me, they are all enjoyable.